Brace yourselves for a big one. We are covering loot concepts and systems from a couple off-topic games, loot mechanics for Gemstone, including Loot Cap, thoughts on scripting, hunting pressure, modifiers, and a few scenarios along the way to hopefully show you how to make more silver within your playtime. So they won't let me behind the counter to see how the ice cream machine works, but I've done research, collected a lot of loot over the years, and have run simulations using various factors that we'll discuss throughout this video. I also had one of these loot guides several years ago in text form floating around on the internet. It was linked through the town crier, but it's since been lost to the abyss. If anyone happened to save a copy, I'd be interested to see how that document compares to my thoughts today. Don't forget our community member Ptolemy always has a lesson about to begin on demand in video form over on his channel. Check those out, especially his latest publication titled Gemstone and Treasure. There's a thread on that video inside the official Gemstone Discord. Direct links will be down below. We probably shouldn't share this one on ESP or official Discord either, due to the full nature and perspectives on this content. As a quick follow-up to my roadmap video, one of our community members suggested getting a link tree which now has the most up-to-date information for all of my support options, social medias, and contact information in one place. If you are watching this video on release, 6 months later or 5 years down the road, have a want, and are in a position to invest in my coding or YouTube art, just visit the Linktree page for the best options. As of today, you can leave tips through Ko-fi, sign up monthly on Patreon for $1, or send a one-time option through a service like PayPal. You can reach the Linktree directly through my profile description on Discord too, and you'll find this Linktree in the description of every video, along with a link to join the official GemStone IV Discord and my personal Hunt Pro server. If you caught my last video, we can now vote GemStone IV as our favorite MUD on Mudverse once every 24 hours. If you are visiting this channel anyways to watch a Gemstone video, take 2 seconds to open the description and vote. That link will be available too, and all previous Gemstone content has this information added now. It looks like we are currently ranked number 1 with over 300 votes so far this month, but the game in the number 2 slot is not far behind us, so let's try to get Gemstone IV past 1,000 votes this month. Okay, so let's get down to business. Not sure if my opinions expressed in this video will make me a 90s edgelord Jara, but I watched Ptolemy's video and I have to agree. The loot system has some serious opportunities. Let's start with an off-topic approach and think about some general loot or loot-adjacent item elements inside a couple other popular online games that still exist today. First up, we have Runescape, released back in January of 2001, which is a skilling type of game, kind of like Dragon Realms. This game has treasure trails where you complete several objectives throughout the world until you are given a decent prize casket with something better than what we have now as a standard chest in Gemstone IV. There's different kinds of dragons you can slay that give different types of leather that can be used in crafting. There's extensive farming options available if you want to stock up on a specific reagent. When new quest content or an event is released, often along comes with it an account or character-attuned permanent game item that is either cosmetic or somehow enhances your gameplay. Especially from an event, it's a way to commemorate your play experience for that year. Permanent quests themselves are usually unique experiences that don't penalize the player for not having enough party members to complete it. As a primarily solo player myself, I appreciate games that can be tuned for a solo reward. Certain parts of the game get updated over time, but if new concepts are introduced that are more efficient than previous, they don't remove the past content. This allows players additional options to create their own experience and enjoy the adventure as it evolves over time. Another popular game is World of Warcraft, released back in November of 2004. More of a leveling game like GemStone. The loot system tiers are designed with different quality levels like poor, common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, artifact, heirloom, and of course the WoW token. Artifacts were exclusive to the Legion expansion. Heirloom design has changed over time, but that is account-attuned stuff you'd pass between your ults, later gaining the ability to be generated on command. That WoW token idea? We'll circle back to that a little later on. The quests in WoW are more a way to level up faster and experience the lore of the world. You can just as easily grind out monsters if you want. Once you reach cap or whatever max level is, most quests offer a different kind of reward tuned for someone at that level of progression in the world. Quest rewards can widely vary, from only experience to specific gear or currency. There are phasing systems in place that can tune an encounter or area to fit a specific play experience. Most notably, this allows mechanics where only you as the individual have to perform some kind of action to progress the adventure. It creates that single-player mode within a multiplayer world. The current incarnation of Finia, as previously described at the State of Valentia, comes to mind. Some people really just want to do things by themselves and be left alone, and others may want a full party where everyone is grouped up on a Discord voice channel to complete the special boss fight mission or epic questline. It's good to have plenty of both types of content to bring new players in. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but Ptolemy briefly mentioned games repurposing concepts or putting a fresh coat of paint on a base concept to create different variations. Much like the previous example in Runescape, you have different tiers of that dragon leather that can be used in crafting specific tier of items. In World of Warcraft, you have cloth that can be crafted to create unique gear sets or pieces of various quality levels. There are 8 different crafting professions in WoW. I know in GemStone we have forging, fletching, cobbling, but imagine if we had 7 more options for crafting besides alchemy. Come on, everybody loves alchemy in GemStone, right? Imagine an alchemy system that created items to give you temporary plus stats or skill buffs that stack with other enhancives, so you could pot up for a boss battle. Crafting should be fun, not a chore. You should want to farm some snow creature for a specific reagent so it can make a cosmetic toy item, not because it's the only way to get that final rank up. RSN, we'll just go ahead and add the toy making crafting skill to the list of Jara's ideas that will never make it into the game. Shifting over to Diablo III, released in May 15th of 2012. Since Diablo IV was released, this one may see less traffic, but the online system had rifts or dungeons you could run for some kind of currency or drop. The difficulty level and loot distribution automatically adjusted based on your party size. You can farm specific set gear with profession bonuses unique to that class. It gives the player something to work towards. One of the major downfalls of this system were the stats on the set gear could be absolute garbage, and you would have to go through extraordinary measures to find exactly the right perfect pieces. Essentially, after you got your first set and unlocked its class bonuses, unless you were really into finding the perfect stat roll, you'd get burnt out and lose interest. Once it comes out, I'm really hoping the GemStone IV Enhancive reroll system hits that mark we're looking for without creating an excessively painful design structure or a grind to obtain whatever currency powers the feature. Next up are just general loot boxes, or comparable to the Gacha mini-games. These exist in a multitude of games in various forms. Loot boxes, or Gacha, is where you spend currency to get a chance to find a collectible or some items that are either cosmetic or functional. Usually these also come attached with a pity system that eventually yields you specific prize values based on the amount of failed attempts. How receptive of this type of system would the player base be? We already have this in a smaller form already with treasure piles in a way. I'm not sure if they have pity or not though. I personally wouldn't mind seeing more of these treasure piles with a rotating stock of some more rare pulls from the past. Maybe park it on Mist Harbor. Any rewards or costs associated would of course need careful consideration. The last couple suggestion darts I'm throwing at the board relates to a direct Silver Saint shop in two different forms. One is an NPC that can add any player service to a piece of gear for a robbery cost in silver that grows based on difficulty. Item attunement for a price reduction like DR seems plausible. The other is a high-end silver shop to buy top and mid-tier items or unlocks for a set rate year-round, not just at festival time. It's important to note that any item or unlock found in this shop for silver would be well more expensive than the converted rate for currency to buy it at its actual festival home. The shop itself could be open year-round with either a rotating or static/expanding inventory. Both of these concepts would be great combined into one area on Mist Harbor 2 as a premium perk. Okay, so we talked a bit about other games. Now let's switch more to On Topic and discuss various types of gemstone loot/item obtainment opportunities. You of course have items you can buy directly at events or maybe even win as a raffle. There are some opportunities to gain something extra special, like in a level 90 plus zone with the legendary feeder. In December of 2023, staff have activated a feeder frenzy mode all month long, where you can find hand-created Game Master items inside boxes found in the treasure system. As for other forms of loot, we have a collectible system that really needs an overhaul itself, but the overall creature found loot is mostly silver. As Ptolemy mentioned, it comes in various forms as gems, small statues, twisted wands, but at the end of the day, it's all liquidated into silver. You hope to find an enhancive while hunting, which are items that typically enhance a skill or a stat. If I recall correctly, they can drop off creatures starting somewhere near level 30 and up. Unfortunately, almost every enhancive you find will go straight to the gem shop or the pawn shop. When you add it all up, it's just silver gained over time. The devs talk about how we have too much silver in the game and we need to desperately drain it. Think many billions. I'm super curious what the actual figure is in max silver inside the game world. They say the average player is only making 1 to 3 million silver in any single month. So where is all that excess silver located? It's possibly trapped on old or offline accounts that could reactivate anytime. It may also be trapped in a small majority of active accounts. Those larger active account holders tend to use the silver to buy event boxes from others to gain currency and buy items. The devs confirmed we are now pulling between 3 and 8 billion silver per round of event boxes. But they also said event boxes will soon be account attuned. So those bigger account holders, they're going to have to buy the event currency directly. It saves them having to waste time to run the event, I suppose, but they're also going to lose out on all that experience and character progression they could have gained. In a way, this directly encourages the trade and conversion between silver, festival currency, and USD. An influx of players or demand could drive up this value. The market is always changing. We touched on the exact values of silver sold over time in the Player's Corner video. We mentioned previously the WoW token. So what about a way to buy game time or maybe gifts of adventure with silver? The unfortunate reality is we would need thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of active subscribers or more to put something like that together. It would lead to a spot where Semitronics would control the silver value, much like how the WoW token price automatically adjusts based on a multitude of factors. Case in point, and I'm just pulling a figure from thin air, but if you could buy game time with silver right now, then a $10 gift of adventure would probably equate to a few trillion silver at this moment in time. So what is the biggest hurdle to making all of our loot dreams come true? The longer answer is complex, while certainly using an analogy involving a small fish living inside of a big ocean, while the slightly shorter answer is a healthy bundle of customers, staff, and most importantly, excess money. An important consideration, GemStone 4 is a tiny game world that we love to spend time in, but it's also a self-sustaining brand and business. It can be challenging to get a brand name off the ground at the start without a built audience or funding. GemStone in its current form doesn't have the financial backing to pay full-time developers for their time investment. There are thousands of saved posts on Discord, and a few touch on this concept. Here's one such example as recent as 2022. So as exciting as it is to have these types of thought experiments on how Gemstone could improve, it really does take careful consideration with every new game feature that's added to make sure the resources are available to complete the task. It should be developed in a way that plays nice with other existing elements, and most importantly, doesn't catastrophically damage the structure that's already been established. All that said, I really hope the staff will consider any of the basic concepts or similar elements to those discussed in this episode. Let's move deeper into the world of GemStone IV Loot and talk about loot rules, loot cap, scripting, hunting pressure, and modifiers. Each GemStone IV server is essentially different. Prime consists of all free-to-play, basic, and premium subscribers. This is the server most people, including me, are on. You have Shattered for AFK scripting and PvP. Platinum is its own thing, along with the test server. Each instance could have its own slightly different rules. I noticed specifically on the test server as example, you get crafting reagents way more often. We continue to learn more about how things work from public comments on the official Gemstone Discord. I didn't know a random Puma could drop a box feeder item. Thank you, Castle. Knowing that they stack the feeders suggests they can turn certain ones on and off as they like. Either that or some poor Simu intern spent all night uploading data on launch day to a cloud somewhere. Just remember that time a Troll King Claw ate half the Gemstone game objects. A few activities in the game like Ream, Grimswarm, or OSA may have different loot modifiers or distribution methods. In this video, I want to focus a bit on general, everyday loot in the wild, specifically how the systems could potentially work behind the scenes. We know for sure that there is a loot cap. This was added back in 2021, so one account is not able to farm more than 35 million in a single month, and of course that resets on the first of every month. This cap has been applied to many kinds of loot systems and areas, excluding of course pay events, pay quest treasure, locksmith pool tips, purifying gems, and of course money exchange between characters or accounts. We know for sure all silver is tracked in multiple ways. When the Fossil Charm item was released, Worm mentioned the first person who drops coins in a room owns them. Behind the veil, each account and character has some kind of reporting that only Game Masters can see to know if they hit the loot cap. It would be nice if each player could have that type of information themselves, along with how much experience is left in their character's RPA modifier, so they could plan when to activate their next orb. Just saying. Here's an example of what that behind-the-scenes silver tracker could potentially look like. Free-to-play accounts receive reduced loot anyway, so farming on a basic subscription that costs $15 USD per month, let's say silver is $2.50 per million, and the cap for an account is 35 billion. That means we can obtain $87.50 worth of currency, and after taking away the subscription cost, you can essentially profit $72.50 per account in a month just playing Gemstone 4 around the clock. Now you might say, Jara, there's no way anyone can possibly hit that 35 million cap in a single month. Well, it happens. Some players achieve that feat monthly on multiple accounts. APM Astilled covered it plainly in text form right here. Let's look at it from a single account, single character mindset. It takes a lot of time and commitment to reach the loot cap, or just by running a script long enough without being caught to really bring in the large raw amounts of silver or pawn gem fodder. Tenured players know that a lot of people script in this game in an AFK state, and I'm sure staff are aware that players do too. But part of the game policy, specifically Policy 18 and Policy 19, go over what the established guidelines and penalties are. We know that staff see how much loot we collect, and there's probably a lot more reporting they have access to. My perspective, the script checks are there in an attempt to govern or prevent AFK cash grinding around the clock, and to uphold a set of established guidelines. I've made a similar comparison in a past video, where scripting is kind of like speeding in a vehicle on a highway. A lot of people are going to do it, but enforcement officers will have tools to detect how fast you're going and pull you over at various times of the day or night to uphold those standards to try and establish a fair play and safe environment. If a staff member is completing a script check on one side of the world, they should do so on the other in the sake of fairness. Checks should happen at random times, but not excessively to target any one individual or to a point of driving away the customer base. The objective should be to help curb the AFK behavior, not make anything personal. The main issue here is the player base directly controls the revenue stream that funds this world. I can bet staff don't want to keep us from spending money on a game that we enjoy either, especially in a move that would directly affect their net return. The game and business function because of a carefully interwoven balance involving players, staff, and Simutronics plus the upper levels and assorted entities. It's a bit about finding that balance of retaining customers and letting us enjoy ourselves while staff prevents some bad actors from AFK script grinding hundreds or thousands of USD per month from this 80s text game. These actors may take to various social platforms and cry injustice when they just happen to unfortunately get caught during a standard check, and they might be working through a process of understanding all the events that just happened. You all know that I love scripting, and I encourage scripting. But long-term unresponsive scripting that provides a severe advantage over the average player while disregarding a policy set in place to maintain balance is a form of cheating in my opinion. 1,000 years ago, I too was yoinked while repetitively attacking a giant stuffed rat the Game Master had put in my path while I used a .cmd script file. Since then, I learned my lesson, and moving forward from that time, I promised myself I would respect the game's active position on AFK scripting if I wanted to continue to play and enjoy my time in the world. It's not an overly complicated concept, and from the other side of the debate, I can see how the rule is so archaic, especially this far into the game's history, but for this moment in time, the policy is what it is. It doesn't mean their stance can't change in the future, it's just not actively being presented as such at this time. AFK scripting has happened, it still happens, and it's going to continue to happen. And even though I don't like that it happens, the money coming in from customers keeps this game world running. I don't have to feel great about it, but I'm glad I still get to log in each day and play, so There are other game modes such as Shattered for AFK scripting that cost $5 extra on top of a basic subscription, but one of the reasons you might consider AFK scripting in Prime is due to the USD profit potential over time. The more people that do this, the lower the silver value will fall, and potentially more script checks should take place to avoid things getting out of hand. I can theorize that Simutronics may not want to get into the whole trading silver, character sales, and discussing USD conversions through official channels as just their way of staying out of it. But consider, if we suddenly had a player base to support having better control over the value of silver, or perhaps even later down the road, we could revisit the idea of using currency to buy game time. This might be something they should consider to assert more control over their IP. Alright, enough of all that. On to hunting pressure and loot modifiers. Have you ever gone into a casino and played a machine to get nothing but a good time from it, and then someone sits down 5 minutes later at the same one and hits a jackpot? This can be how hunting creatures in GemStone feels, but there are a bunch of numbers behind it. Regrettably, I don't have access to or know the exact real numbers, but I can pose some examples to hopefully help better understand it based on previously published data. There's a long list of posts dating back to 1999 that's going to be linked down below on how treasure is generated, and as mentioned, Discord is absolutely overflowing with knowledge tidbits if you take time and know how to look for the right keywords. Some creatures can spawn with special generated weapons in their hands that are not affected by the level of player who spawned them, or that player's loot cap. Outside of that, loot is determined on search, and modifiers are affected when a creature is tagged via damage or incapacitation. Ghost creatures that fade away before they can be searched do not impact the pressure modifier for that creature, so don't worry about missed opportunities to find something good because that phantasma got away from you. Next search attempt, you'll have another chance. Every creature in the game has modifiers attached, and these modifiers can change based on several factors, starting with just randomly timed design resets throughout the day, week, or month. Additionally, there is something called pressure, where killing too many of a specific creature in one spot can make that creature have less treasure output overall. And if a specific creature is not killed over time, their loot modifier will naturally rise. This ties back into that floating pressure number that travels between creatures of similar level in the same area. Alright, we need a baseline. So here's a post from 1999 when the current system rolled out. The current system, shown on the bottom, has a modifier called an adjusted treasure level. Later in the video, I'll refer to this as maybe a final search modifier, but really this is the number we need to get as high as possible to generate the best possible loot. A creature can typically be searched by anyone. There is a flag setting called Flag Grouploot On, which restricts members of your group only to looting your kills. This can somewhat help prevent AFK scripters from poaching your kills. For the best shot at treasure, you must be below the 35 million loot cap for the month, be at least a basic subscriber, since free-to-play have a loot penalty, and be able to gain experience from the creature. Generally, a happy range players want to be is on level with the creature or within 5 levels above or below, referred to sometimes as underhunting or uphunting. Creatures themselves can spawn in a small range of levels. As example, a goblin could be level 1 or 2. A banshee might be level 49, 50, or 51. So in a level 50 banshee example, players level 45 to 55 would see some of the best treasure, and players 61 plus would be excluded from certain types of treasure, receive a huge penalty, and get something generated below baseline treasure level. To find the best on-level loot, you want to make sure that final search modifier is as high as possible. So how can we increase that final search modifier? Let's start with a few more examples based on the above concepts. Here we have a kobold at level 1. A player will get experience at level 10, but not level 11. The kobold has a base treasure rating of 2. No one has hunted this creature or area, so it naturally has a boost of +3. A wizard player level 1 comes along, kills, and loots the creature. The result is a base 2, plus the natural boost of 3, plus 1 of an on-level modifier, equals a 6 treasure mod, which uses whatever loot pool is attached to the kobold to generate treasure. Here's a second example with the kobold at level 1. The kobold has a base treasure rating of 2. This creature has been killed so many times, it naturally has a boost of -9. However, this is a special fantasy scenario where there are no other creatures in the area in the same level range as this kobold, so the minimum loot will always be the base modifier. Wizard player level 5 comes along, kills, and loots the creature. You have the base 2, plus the natural boost of -9, plus 0.5 for an on-level modifier, since the level 5 is considerably more than the level 1 creature. And the end result is -6.5, which is less than the 2 minimum, and experience gaining loot can't generate below minimum in a situation where loot pressure isn't moving due to no other valid creatures to travel to nearby. So loot is always yielded at that 2 modifier rating forever. No matter how much a creature in this specific scenario is overhunted, if you can gain experience from it and you're not at loot cap, you'll always be guaranteed that minimum base treasure level. Here's another example. Here we have an ogre warrior that spawns at level 20. This warrior has a base treasure rating of 4. The creature has a natural pressure boost of +14. Warrior player level 11 comes along, kills and loots the creature by themselves, hypothetically, and the end result is a base 4 plus a natural boost of 14 plus 2.5, which is an on-level modifier that they gain from uphunting. The character also activated a major loot boost for +3, so that leaves us with a final modifier of 23.5. Let's clarify that floating modifier number. This is a gradual shift between creatures of like level in the same area. Most areas and most creatures have this. Let's take the landing gates map as an example. In the 15 to 20 range, we have Wind Witches, Ogre Warriors, and Hill Trolls. The floating modifier will jump around between those 3 specific creatures in this exact area. Hunting Wind Witches too much will cause it to shift over to Ogre Warriors. Hunting Ogre Warriors too many times may shift some of that pressure back to Wind Witches again, or maybe some over to Hill Trolls. In order to keep the loot pressure moving in an area, you have to kill creatures you don't normally kill in that zone within that same level range. Keep trying different creatures in your level range all over the world until you start seeing higher loot returns, then farm like crazy. This concept is all about finding hotspots, which we'll discuss a little more later on. The Ogre Warrior modifier shouldn't jump over to a level 3 creature because that's too far outside of its standard deviation range away from the original creature's base level. So you'll find some scenarios in the world where a creature has no other like-level creatures that exist around it, as in that fantasy one-off kobold scenario. In this case, that floating bonus modifier never leaves that creature, and the overall results can be lowered by the creature being killed too many times within a set time. But if that floating modifier can't move anywhere, that creature will always yield minimum base mod treasure or better. Let's talk about how groups can affect that modifier too. Having a subscribing party member attack, incapacitate, or search a creature will change that modifier. If your party member is outside the experience gaining range, they will tank the loot. In this example, we have 2 characters that are attacking the same creature. An Ogre Warrior spawns at level 20, and that warrior has a base treasure rating of 4. This creature also has a natural pressure boost of plus 14. Our warrior player level 20 attacks the creature, followed by a wizard player level 25. If player 1 searched that creature, you'd have base 4, plus the natural 14, plus 1 on-level modifier, plus 0.5 group member modifier, plus major loot boost 3, to have an end result of 22.5. And if player 2 searched that creature instead, you'd have a base 4, plus a natural 14, plus 0.5 on-level modifier, plus 1 from a group member modifier, which equals 19.5 because they didn't have a loot boost. So what is the difference if a player interacts with a creature that's outside the experience gaining range? Well, let's look at it when they don't at first. Let's say you have an Ogre Warrior that spawns at level 20 again, and this warrior has a base treasure rating of 4, and the creature has a natural pressure boost of 14. A warrior player level 15 attacks the creature. We also have an empath player level 100 that does not attack the creature, but instead casts spell 117 Spirit Strike, 211 Bravery, and 215 Heroism to buff the level 15's attack strength. If player 1 searched that creature, you'd have a base 4 plus a natural 14 for an end result of 18. If that cap player searched that creature instead, you'd have a base 4 plus a natural 14 minus 100 penalty, which would equal a negative 82 modifier. Now with that same creature setup, let's have the capped character attack. A warrior player level 15 attacks the creature, followed by that level 100 who uses the symbol of sleep, and let's just say they bind the creature. When player 1 searches the creature, you have the base 4, natural 14, minus that 100 penalty for a negative 82 modifier, and then you'd of course have the exact same result if that capped player searched it instead. As a follow-up caveat, we mentioned that creatures won't generate treasure below a set rate under the certain condition. If you use a character to damage or incapacitate a creature that can't learn from it, that loot is going to suffer a negative modifier irregardless. Don't waste your time trying to plot the ultimate way to get rich using 2 capped characters and the gremlins by the Twin Canyons. But if you're on level and short enough, definitely try them. They're tons of fun. The more party members you have that can gain experience and damage the creature, the bigger that loot modifier is going to climb. Here's one more example. We have a kobold that spawns at level 1, and this kobold has a base treasure rating of 1. The creature has a natural pressure boost of negative 1. Let's just say that we have 10 different accounts, they're all level 1 monks, and they all just happen to hit this creature before it died. Your result is going to be the base 1 add it to that -1 natural for a total of 0, and then you add in that 10 group modifier, plus whoever searched had a major loot boost, so that'll be +3 more. So that end result will be a 13 loot modifier for a creature that normally has 0. This is how you can use multiple accounts to forcibly generate extra treasure from literally any creature in the entire game. You also definitely want to keep an eye out for hyperspawns. You greatly increase your potential loot over time by having more creatures spawn. That's just how it is. And the creature spawn rate, funny enough, is directly tied to how many players are in a set area. So if you and 15 free-to-play accounts went into kobolds, 10 kobolds would spawn at once, increasing the opportunity to kill more per hour. This is why sometimes when you're out in the wilds and you go to a hunting zone that's normally dead and almost every room is absolutely filled, it's most likely there's a large party or group hanging around. This is especially how big groups just farm massive amounts of currency in a set time. They take 5 to 10 accounts into Ream, park themselves into one room, and then cast 7-10 and wait for everything to die. Replace Ream with any hunting location in the game. Okay, so since we're all laying it out there anyway, using that $72.50 earning potential per account, let's say you had 20 accounts. That means GemStone would net you 1,450 USD in silver every 30 days. And that's just profit, since your sub fee has already been accounted for within that treasure that you generate. So all this may seem mind-blowing, but I do remind you that we have an average online character count near 600, and of that, probably 300 or maybe 400 of our total player base is individual people. So even though you may have trillions of silver, that doesn't mean someone is going to cash app you thousands every month for the rest of time in exchange for your hard-farmed digital currency. When you're out there farming, keep an eye out for hotspots. Capped players especially may know what I mean, such as in the Rift. The capped loot floats between plane 4, 5, and scatter. If you search Abyss Pylon, it yields 790 coins and an uncut diamond. That creature or machine is hot, and you should grind that specific monster on repeat using as many boost modifier options you have at your disposal. This is also how I pulled literally millions of silver in a single afternoon using a couple of accounts deep in Zul Logoth using up hunting, group tactics, and loot boosts. Here's a little bit of a recap on what we discussed, along with some additional tips and callouts on how to make some silver. If you want to increase your loot modifiers, just move around. Go places that other people avoid. Deep in Darkstone Castle, anti-magic areas, places you can't teleport in or out of easily, go to the Broken Lands. The running joke is to stay away from the landing, but the landing has tons of good loot. You just have to find it at the right level ranges. Use those loot boosts. Up hunt creatures that are more skilled than you are. And hey, why don't you grab some friends and go group hunting? Here's some ways to increase your silver over time. Find hyperspawns or hotspots, even better when they're both on the same creature. This is how I cashed in on some serious profit over in Fire Mages on Terrasile. Kill as many as you can using as high of a modifier as you can, farm till that creature is dry and move on. Bring more people to generate creatures. They don't even have to be attacking. This is how sometimes you see someone with like a 5-character party, but only one of them is actually a paid subscriber. Use the monk ability Provoke to increase creature generation. Take an army of level 40 monks and do that on the test server for fun when you're bored one day. Don't forget a quick shout out to trading ranks. We didn't really cover this, but trading ranks will naturally increase the silver you gain over time from shops as you sell miscellaneous fodder. Also, use the Purification Song number 1004 to purify gems if you happen to be a bard. Sell those gems that you turn into orbs to other players, who can use them for things like recharging, prisms, or other miscellaneous uses. And if you don't want to fool with any of that, just sell all your gems to a gem shop, and put that silver directly into the bank. Here's a good one, skin. This is something you can do at any character level versus any creature level. Skin value itself does indeed have pressure, but it won't be negatively impacted by your level being outside the experience generating range. This is why a lot of my silver farming videos show a level 100 hunting in a much lower level area, especially in a hyperspawn. Jara can farm large amounts of skins to be sold in bulk at a furrier in one motion. Now, a real activity to make silver is to offer your profession service, especially as a cleric, wizard, or sorcerer. That is a topic that deserves a separate video. You can always buy the silver from another player too, just be careful, there are many scammers out there. I want to talk more about loot systems like Ream and Grimstorm war camps and their own content pieces someday as well. There's a lot of stuff on deck before we approach those though. I'm sure I missed something. I'll leave comments down below. As I'm recording this, I'm kind of wondering if this is going to be the longest episode to date. There were more gemstone concepts that I was thinking about while I was making this video, but this just got too big. I tried to put so much into this. I'm sorry if we were a little all over the board, but thank you so much for staying with me. Please leave a comment below with your thoughts on anything discussed in this video. I want to take time to say thank you to some active patrons like Timothy and 6-Bit Side. Next video is a training build example for clerics.